for destroying everything. For that, battle against the true hero is immense respect.
いってらっしゃい。
Honors the hero, or the villain
いらっしゃい。何を売るのさ。
So the game throws its heart
取引成立じゃん。
chances of fighting actually trying to memorize the background score. There's a certain element of randomness in Undying. Things are different, even if a certain part of the bug as you keep trying.
何にすんぞ。毎度あり。
After this fight, landing with the attack on this kid, walked in and called the fight, and in many respects, Undying is nothing has patience to resolve. I asked you if you were truly wanted to determined you have to keep trying, suffering defeat after defeat just to see it through to the end. Undertale, determination is the power that controls the save file. It is a word repeated again and again in all routes. On this route, the internal statement something filled with determination, full of blunt determination. And it's by being more determined than Undying that you can stop. As far as determination is, the player on determined, don't give up here. What I find so interesting about Undying's defeat here is how, despite everything, she's still smiling. There's an unfair belief when it comes to justice that Alphys has already watched the fight and chosen to evacuate everyone, that in the end, Asgore will use his 6 given souls. That deep knowledge that we'll discuss later. This precise moment, Undertale's narrative dies with Undying, that last shred of hope. This Hotline is by far the most empty experience yet. When I said the narrative dies with Undying, that doesn't mean there's no story. But it does show a marked shift by severely stapling back some story and scenes in favor of the bare battle mechanics in the grind. When you reach the lab, Mettaton reveals that Alphys has already evacuated everyone. While Mettaton talks shit, he soon flees as the world gains stars while their corpses. And that's it. From this point on, there are no mandatory cousins. Continue straight through to the core and fight Mettaton if you want. And so you'll get the Queen Alphys ending and miss out on the last legs of this script. But considering you must kill 40 monsters to proceed, some might find it more worthwhile to do it this way. At this point, while the kills are simple, 40 is twice the number you have to find in the ruins, and more than twice the number for Snowdin and Waterfall. This is Scarf's ultimate test of patience, save for its 2 very difficult boss fights. The grind is really all that's left. Everything that made Hotland so memorable. Its Mettaton TV shows to Alphys' absurd, repulsive text to the little NPC interactions are all gone. Even the encounters with Muffin and guards are so fleeting and bare bones they barely matter. Guards will at least have a fun bit of flavor text if you check them, or in the novel kitchen. If you choose to draw out Muffin's fight, learn a lot about the situation in Hotland that you'd otherwise miss. Much more detail about this in my Muffin video above, but effectively Alphys so that Muffin and the spiders can escape. Muffin refused to leave the fight, which in turn allowed you to continue killing. But something you only learned later under the mouth. You can instantly kill her and carry on your business. Why bother? It's rather ironic in a route designed around the idea of how you gain contact with other people, but it's dialogue with this character is great piece from that web. About to play out in full. They're right behind you the time you must take in Hotland. It speaks to the level of character you put into this game. You didn't have to write an entirely new script for Muffin here. You could have had her simply not speak at all, but instead he tucked away interesting characterization for those who think outside the box and ask, what happens if I don't kill her yet? This material lets you follow like philosophy this route is built around, where it's less about killing and more about exhausting outcomes and bleeding the game dry. Otherwise, the only meaningful interactions before Mettaton you get are the 2 shops. Randy and Caddy have a letter where they were evacuated with the other Hotland monsters, some last-minute humor of them trying to use up the film and telling you not to steal murder bands.
いらっしゃい。おやおや、お帰りか。
Massacre, he's still at work, and his people are dying all around him. He's just willing to talk shit about his boss and how inconsistent Mettaton is with his hours and scheduling. Now has an entire CD using murder bands. That's the part of his interactions is that he threatened him. Drops the amazing line, I can't hell, I'm all out of vacation days.
I can't go to hell. I'm all out of vacation days.
Which means you're left with more tedious grinding. The music is good, even slowed down, which makes it a little more bearable, even if the enemies aren't expected to. What's so interesting is Mettaton Neo. Speed Battle Speed tries to is another difficult boss in the same tier as Undying the Undying. The secret alternate formula was designed as a human annihilator. Music is even a remix of the opening riff of which one combined with alternate design makes you think you're in for a treat. But if you fail to attack him and drag the ball out, you get nothing. Stuck in a loop. Music doesn't escalate. It's also just a loop. Let's throw that grinding. But with so much tedium, you don't even get a boss fight for it. By the time Neo goes down like a chump, if you met the requirements throughout, you don't even get a monologue. He talks about his grandpa and explodes. But fail. He actually gives a passionate speech about how, despite your best efforts, you aren't completely evil. Come on, Annie. If you are trying to be pure evil, fail.
当てそうな相手ですね。
Survive this diet. It's just so interesting. It's just failing to meet the required goal, succeeding. Failing to get more sentimental speech, by succeeding it rings hollow. Perhaps that's the point. Because why bother with emotional gravitas when you probably just want to get to the midnight city barely talks? It's less text to deal with. I love the game. Narrative was a running close before, that John's death is fully completed. Chapter reaching a moment that's nothing left of the original story at heart. Track 71 does not play, favor a slow down, small shot. Soon the monsters turning a tragic tale, well, you can
とどめる。
triple message shiny.
お疲れ様でした。
Loud story that, while hinted at in the other raps, really puts things into perspective.
すごいですね。
Terrified good Noah. Though after the human took him, we felt no love for him. We tried to go to Toriel, she also failed to rekindle any lost love. Bobby felt empty, apathetic, utterly lost, to the point where he tried to follow in Kara's footsteps to keep him alive. His fear about what happened after death was the one thing that kept him alive. It was also how he discovered his ability to save alone. And it is here where Flower serves as a fantastic analog to me. Andrew Cunningham touched upon this in his excellent video on Undertale's themes. But I think what really makes this hit home is how it transitions from hooking you with missing pieces of Flower's backstory to using that backstory to convey a lyric. When we engage in video games for the first time, this game we truly love, get lost in the story and immersed in the world. It becomes a genuinely emotional experience. So perhaps hate them. First time around, it's all new. It's all fresh.
当てそうな相手ですね。
Each has no more at all. He has alternate tracks that will happen time, thinking of new ways to redeem the story that exists in the world. Eventually, however, even that will go from here. Not necessarily in fun, but failure enough for engagement to change. Just like Flower. Discovered how making friends and doing everything right. Eventually, Grimborg decided to explore other options. He tried all manner of different outcomes and combinations. Eventually, he knew the game so well that it lost its special meaning that he had in life and in his initial runs. If you read his peaceful dialogue, there's some supplementary information, like how Papyrus used to be his favorite, and how he had to run into savings that didn't end well. It's not only to add more context to what led him to those outcomes and encounters. That's just it. Truly grasp Flower is to become about everything you need to know about him. You need to play the game multiple times, try his tutorial, things. This is Photoshop Flower and tries to exhaust his game over dialogue. Right here,
とどめる。
from being enough all his dialogue there. Actually, he will wipe on his Better than you. Next in the house is so blunt. Nothing peaceful. No talking. I've read this already. Andrew's wrong is the same. But it puts some characterization about character, like how they made drawing on the wall, how the family photo leaves them speechless, how they react to the missing bad guy sweater after confirmation of identified. Or death, heart-shaped love, steel knife, and the lungs. Appropriately unsettling favorites. Physically, these items are the same objects. The way you view them has changed, just as the way you view the game has changed. But it's fun. Wow. Players it's time and time again to try and recapture the actual something new, to get everything out of the experience, but also how many people who don't have the right legs rather instead watch playthroughs. And this is very true. Many people are fails messages again in 5, so want to see what else is there. Even if you don't correctly indicate our outcomes, or you simply back up and do things. That's for
余裕の勝利ね。
Ask questions. Need the full picture. Need to know happiness. In the end, it's still hollow. Alan gets grown tired of everything. Saving, killing, in the end, there's nothing left for him. Nothing left but some fragile hope for connection. But there's someone like him. Someone he can't predict. Someone he can relate to and live out his days on the surface with happily. In a way, this kind of reflects the way that people in fandoms see community common ground. Except Fabius realizes that that's not what he's going to get. It's just like him, you need to see it all. See it all means destroying everything in your path. Leading the story dry, faced with his own reflection, Fabius suddenly feels fear. Genuine fear. Even he starts to believe to stop, to go back, to give it all up. So close to the end. So close to a gratifying finale that will make this slow, tedious slog night and finally repent. You reach the last corridor. It's just like any other run. Sans will be there to cast judgment. What do they say now that you've cleared every path? What do you get? Not a bad time if you continue down this path. Free metal dialogue is full of opinion callbacks, asking if people can change. Even the worst person can be better. It's the same sentiment the pirates echoed until it was mercilessly struck down. Pirates can even put up a fight. And then comes the threat that if you concede, he will finally, truly take action. His free metal speech interestingly echoes Haskell his neutral run, and he strikes suddenly and relentlessly. Unless you know what's coming, you're likely to be blindsided and lose on that first attack. This is an effective way of demonstrating what you've gotten yourself into. You want something new, something epic, true challenge worthy of your time. What you get is exactly that, as the Sans fight for is brutal and unbelievable. You don't learn patterns you memorize them, you can stand a chance to survive. Nobody's signature song, Megalovania, truly happens at the beginning. This is the end. Sandy achieves how his battle may be performed. In attacking first and refusing to stand still, take hits. His battle monologue sheds light on it. This is the bigger picture. I'm starting, stopping, setting. What began with Flowina's runs, it's just as possible to into this. You should have sort of prepared to explore other runs prior. And this is your first run. Perhaps not, and perhaps it really is Flowey where it all began. Sort of. This puts into perspective Sans's attitude in other runs. But he doesn't step in when his brother's in danger, and he doesn't even try to do any good. Well, it's true that he made a promise tutorial. That can only explain so much when he's by his own admission, given up on going back, but he doesn't really care about the surface. Sort of in the fate of the world really and truly aims at the balance that he is finally now. So there's no one left who understands. But a lot of the Sans fight headwinds is the fact that it's part of a much bigger narrative, both on an indie and metal. Sans never works as well as it does. It's earned. Literally, if you didn't control the fastest runs before, you decided to do that and see what it gave you. But yeah. Control it's an overall these jokes themselves. It has moments like the next or scene to kill the pirates disappears for most of the game. His judgment dialogue changes a lot on Felix depending on the reality, and if you reload the game on a pacifist run in the corridor enough times, you get his pacifist is key, and learn how to path his face reveals there's so much more to him than meets the eye. None of us attack an army, but he just asks you to look inside yourself. Ask if you did the right thing. This is pirates doesn't grow truly judgmental. When you killed him, doesn't really make the actions specific. Let's switch all allowing my mindset of trying that to changes. It makes the battle and the culmination of the round's enemies. Now, if you did keep it and Cloud's dialogue, it's what it's about Sans being dangerous and I would see the pain. Yet so many people will come and they'll justify the Sans fight. Sans has been reduced to just this fight. The No Mercy run many fan games and recreations of it that are harder, maybe something engaging. Some other character in a similar position without the story and build-up can make those fights hit as hard in the first place. If you enjoy those types of fan projects, there's no shame in that. Fan creativity inspires people to learn how to make art using code, and that's something to be cherished. But I do think it speaks to a wider problem of Undertale fandom, fandoms as a whole. One element gets so hyped comes to Forcement's meaning. Structure of creationism, it gives you to the narrative. I've become this epic power fantasy of beating a hard boss, so many creation strategies of seemingly hard as possible. But it's a significant lack of fan battles exist. They are a minority, and full-scale fan games are incredibly difficult to develop. So it's not even that it's an advanced experience like TS_Swap and Undertale Yellow. I just think there are interesting things to say about the Sans fight and where it stands as one piece of the greater puzzle. All that being said, knowing where Sans delivers his mid-battle speech marks an interesting point. He tries to encourage you to turn over a new leaf, tries to encourage you to make friends. There's this reflective idea that perhaps you did have to act as friends, that maybe things were different, and maybe they could be different again. Exhausted players may decide to spare him, because they've gotten their fill. They just want to see what happens. It's a moment of genuine surprise for Sans, where even he points out how you've gone against everything you've tried to achieve on this run. He acknowledges the difficulty in making the choice, and says it won't go to waste. This is the game, it's too late to turn back. At least by conventional means. Sans gets the last laugh. He dumps on you and tells you that he might never come back. Because that's Sans' driving motivation. Trying to win. He's trying to be so irritating to fight so stop playing or start over and then give it a rest. And it's so interesting to see how his dialogue just keeps updating the more you lose, injecting dark humor for another thing dance with death. You get dunked on, we fight him. He concludes correctly that he got you. You still came back, showing you were never looking to be his friend in the first place. He mentions the other stances, assuming that in different timelines the friendship might have meant something. This also makes us get dunked on speeches a sincere plea to just give up. He does see it as a way out, a way for you to change by way of stopping. Fortunately for Sans, he just has someone positive next. The more you fight Sans, the more you learn to adapt. Sans is limited by the fact that he's a video game character. He guesses about your actions and intentions because he's so good at reading them. You, however, are a player on the other side of the screen. You'll come back swinging, learning, gaining momentum, being blasted, even his strongest and nastiest attacks. And all you can do is stand there and do nothing. And again, this is a culmination of the rap's meta nature. As Sans cheated by attacking first before, now he uses the constraints of the battle system to drag things out. He knows he can't win, so he'll make you sit there. The only problem is, he's tired. All it takes is for Sans to fall asleep in the battle system. You cheat. You can move the box over to the button. Attack him. Don't dodge his first strike. It's all at this point, you are unstoppable. You win. You will reach the end. But before that, there's some poignant lines that speak to the nature of the run and what it's trying to say. But there's no reason to continue at this point. That you're doing this because you can, and because you can, you think you have to. Early in the fight, he wondered if maybe the anomaly just needed good friends and bad laughs, and above all else, happiness. However, you've gone through the other walls. It's like it's all in there, and that. Even Sans realizes this. Sans not the type of person who's satisfied. There's an ending experience, and you've also been before. Is it really so bad how the job take it? Some people get offended at how Undertale criticizes the act of writing from games, but I think that they're affected by the same strongly considered the type of game Undertale is. It is a game that treats the inhabitants of its world as more than obstacles to defeat. Characters who live in the world and expose the consequences of their deaths. In a game that asks you to consider options besides murder, and understand the consequences like to treat back and forth to something more severe. This is a game that's supposed to have tropes and things that are created second to true video games. It's a deconstruction. That's the best game. It might have some wrong. That doesn't mean Total Fox hates video games. Fox hates you. Probably many arguments that people here don't pay the same attention to the bad consequence. Undertale simply wants to explore what it would be like if those aspects of games were actually acknowledged in universe. Make players think about the tropes and trends that we consider useless potential in them. So on Sans side, see down the empty hall. And so to say the total right it's never met a person who got various kinds of things in the universe. This is a direct homage to the ending of the game off, which is likely the source of inspiration for this rap and its meta message. Skip to the timestamp above to talk about avoid any spoilers. But technically, you choose to abandon the mission to purify the world by killing and destroying everything. You and the judge face off against the player character as the Bad Batter, now shown as a monstrous creature rather than the human-like avatar he appeared as before. Many times throughout this run in Undertale, characters like Flowey, Sans, and Undyne now at level 20. So powerful, but ascended beyond the years. For the player, who exists outside the game, there was no enemy stronger than satisfied. So Undertale's added is twofold. There's the angle of this is happening in this world, and this is a game acknowledging you as an outsider, a player, someone with agency that no one in this game truly has. The game could have given you a triumphant final stand for Sixel to Asgore, as was teased and foretold earlier in the game. I think there's something so hollow about walking in expecting something big. Asgore can't even recognize you as a dangerous human at all. He falls before he can truly understand what's happening. It plays into a similar dissatisfaction with Metatron Neo. Traces of similar hype have payoff. In a records unsatisfying from a game design standpoint, even an in-universe story standpoint, from a meta standpoint, it makes perfect sense. The right of Sans, believing there's still an even greater challenge to overcome. No, nothing. Kill Asgore. Slice Flowey into nothing as he begs for you to let him live. But up until this point, so you can think of And it's still fictional. Just pixels on a screen. Now, it's being thing. Then you see the image of the fallen human who made at the start of the game. There's a lot to be said about Kara's morality. This character found literally the version of that mission taken. Or even with your guidance part of those speeches. This video, I think it's more of a not as a literal fall. I don't know. So don't get more. So we're asking to make the following game at the start of the game. Any classic RPGs in the past community were packaged for even parties. Final Fantasy VII. So if we look at Kara here as an encapsulation of RPG, surface level, everything starts to play. Bringing progression to this run by focusing on grinding and growing stronger, where the game's humor and heart fades away. Puzzles are already solved. If your characters die before making strong impressions, the sole exception would be Undying Sands and Flowey. Rather than the fun puzzle aspects of having to solve from spare cookies, just the matches as little as time for the numbers of play. As isn't most turn-based RPGs old, the attacks get stronger and faster. It's so easy to stop. The game gives the out. Go after the fun and recently game. To get to this final screen, you must forego all of that. You must play the game straight, when it's not meant to be a straight-up RPG. So Kara in this context is a feeling you get from progressing through it. Everything from HP, attack, LV. So one can argue that it can work except for the feeling is just an in-universe it's just like game over screens and market. By now, even the narrative actions are vaccinated campaigns. This is your final round. Just like we see the broad strokes of what under the glass off. Spend time. This is your last chance to close the consequences. You close the window now without choosing the basically not. You're free to reset the thing for ending. It doesn't require you to force quit. You still have the choice. It's not like you're in save for dying. See what happens. No matter what you choose to lies, it's always the same. You never truly control. We're driven solely by that desire to see it all suit you. So the game closes. Files are created internally to remind you what you did. You must break the sound of the to decide what you selfish soul, solitude. It's the perfect time to reflect. You are the one who destroyed the world and pushed everything to its edge. So bad enemies. This is a video of the player encounter. And really compares on things like story or empathy. Games and feel the rush of growing stronger. As my friend Xanomov pointed out, Lobby gives an exploration of completionism and what it would feel like within a game's world if the power to replay was an in-universe ability, while Kara at the end of the round presents the side of gaming where you focus solely on mechanics and progress. We taught them that these are all that matters, so go on and move on to new worlds, new games, and continue to do the same. Even if you can delete the quest, it's so fascinating how the game is put to the assumption that everything is okay to the very end of pacifist. In a way, it might even drive some players trying to see if there are even subtle changes to get this unleashed miss. Personally, I interpret both endings to Soulless lessons. Eric is going to kill everyone on the surface now. And more, getting this happy ending doesn't erase what you did before. And if everyone else forgets, the game still remembers. Kara still remembers. Regardless, everything you can find. If you repeat the person run, Kara even suggests that you'll return to the game's converted sentiment. If you must keep running after this, try something else. After all, isn't this what you came here for? See if anything change. Feel that endless cycle of future every stone is unturned. Until there's nothing but a hollow realization. There's no grander way. No mercy grants contentious weapon. Some hate the grinding and find it important bad game design. Despite how meta on an ass or I get to big battles, only better jokes at the end. Indeed, if the rap was meant to be fun and gameplay experience, I'd say it falls short. There's a meta-narrative about the ways we connect with video games and the ways we try to stay with things that mean a lot to us. We find every secret and kind of text along the way works incredibly well. It's just that not everyone goes to games to be held accountable, and not everyone is a lot of key to get to satisfaction very perfect. You look at their Undertale Yellow was an interesting response to the original premise. I think this particular prospects are more uplifting to the characters. It's less repetitive. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Undertale's right was special for all its quirks and flaws, and to try and replicate it beat for beat wouldn't work nearly as well the second time. I think that's also why Kobe took the direction indulgent, exploring a whole other side of the meta narrative through the way we as players co-op versus life, and then we have to push them into hurting and making well to get an alternative route, almost convinced existing versus the seeming linearity of the game. While you think the mirror grid works better as a marriage of games like the meta, I don't think its predecessor was wrong. Everything from the frustration and tedium to the disappointment was by design. At the end of it all, it got me, someone who wasn't even really a fan of the route, how obsessed the fan was with it, to make an almost 20-page script. As it turns out that even I had to save my thought. If you like this video and want to see more like it, consider subscribing and ring that little bell because the algorithm takes the graders tends to not tell everyone it's a new video.
皆さんなら
Satisfied? That'll be with YouTube. Like that. If you want to check out and character analysis, all kinds of links to and part of the script.
それ
My main character is always Flux. Patreon is a great way to show direct support and gain cool perks in this game. And see early progresses of scripts, videos, reviews, concept art, and security. With all that said, thank you so much for sticking through to the end. Have a fantastic day.
さよならです。いらっしゃい。なんじゃ、お主たちか。何を売るのじゃ？何にするのじゃ装備を変えるのかよ。何にするのじゃ？なんじゃ？さてさて、今後ともよろしく頼むぞ。あ、お客さん、朝までお休みだね。なんだっけ？何何？はあ、さて、もう一眠り。
何か用か。どうするのだ。どうするのだ。別の用か。どうするのだ。別の用か。
We have no needs. We have 17 casualties. How many miles that is? Expeditions. Oh, zero.
どうするのだ。
So the members of the technical case, let's go in the best. The Bible is a term to make something and it should never be stressed. Unless the next step right out, that's it for this edition of the time. Starts getting slower. Tell us the questions again, sir. To my family, childhood, together. From the mustache being sacrificed.
ではな。
いらっしゃい。なんじゃ、お主たちか。装備を変えるのかよ。何にするのじゃ。さてさて、毎度あり。
何か用か。誰を呼ぶのだ。
Something that sounds familiar. You're just casually playing Super Mario 64.
What? No. I wasn't finished with that video. I was somewhere in the middle. Why are you making me go back to the very beginning?
Legs in the head or frame. So folks probably listen to the
Oh no!
I trick it like a brain. Want to see me play more and it's like rapid. It's not silly. Don't think I'm looking at a bitch. Bitches from the NBA. See, no, it's not pretty. It's what
This next line didn't make a ton of sense to me at first, as it seemed like broken English. Why would Tony Fox have this random, fractured sentence in the middle of the Queen's monologue? Then I remembered where I'd heard this strange phrasing before. There's another character who uses the word "make" a strange way, or rather, another character who uses the word "making" a strange way. I'm of course talking about Spamton. During the tournament, upon fighting Spamton, he rants at you for betraying him and then gives you this line of dialogue. No, I get it. It's you and that Hochi Mama. You've been making, haven't you? You've been making Hyperlink locked, and now that you have your own supply, you don't make. Honestly, you could spend all for just analyzing Spamton's bizarre dialogue, and you could spend another entire video trying to deduce what he's referring to when he says hyperlink blocked. Given what it means when hyperlink is blocked on a computer, it's easy to assume that Spamton is trying to say something specific. But every time he tries to say it, he gets an error, and it says hyperlink blocked instead. That said, I think it's clear that hyperlink block is usually used in a context in which something related to souls, determination, identity, freedom, or possibly just power. Of course, that's assuming that hyperlink locked is replacing the word Spamton actually wants to say. It's possible that when he says hyperlink locked, he's doing so intentionally. As such, much like his other bizarre choices, I think we could possibly interpret hyperlink locked literally to guess what he means. The first word is hyperlink, which is composed of the prefix hyper and the noun link. Hyper means to go over, beyond, above, successfully, or normal. For example, Azrael's most powerful move, the Hyper Goner, is an attack that can wipe out an entire timeline. So it makes sense that he used the hyper prefix. Next word, link, means a relationship between two things or situations, especially when one thing affects the other. As such, the literal interpretation of hyperlink is a connection between two things that goes beyond the normal. Finally, the second word, locked, and it seems like Spamton wants to block some sort of unusual connection, given that he's obsessed with cutting strings that puppet. It's likely that he wants the power of determination in order to block the link to whatever entity is controlling his fate. So, when he says that Chris also wants Hyper to be blocked, it's likely because he can tell that Chris is also being puppeted by some other entity, and thus Chris also wants to block their own hyperlink. Point is, it's likely that both Queen and Spamton are referencing very similar things when using the words made and making. Specifically, they're likely referring to determination, as that's the power needed to create fountains, that's the power that can change fate, and that's the power that Chris is probably putting inside of the well. I kind of got sidetracked a little to talk about Spamton, but to tie this all back to the Knight, we now know that the Knight is capable of wielding determination, which means that the Knight probably has a soul, which means that the Knight is probably a Lightner. Which means that the Knight is probably the character we've met in Town Delta. I said probably because, as we saw in Undertale, it is possible for an entity without a soul to wield determination. However, in Flowey's case, that was only possible because he had been rejected his determination, and while there are a lot of similarities between Darkners and Flowey, I think it's safe to say that Darkners do not wield determination in the same way Flowey do. That said, thanks to having Flowey as an example, it is in fact possible for a soulless entity to steal souls and become powerful as a result. So, Spamton did actually have a big idea. If he had succeeded in stealing his soul, and the world, despite not having a soul of his own, which is a scary thought. But it does show that, technically, Darkness could unite and be responsible for creating fountains if they somehow gained the soul or the determination of light. Recall that the Spade King adores the Knight despite hating Lightners, so that the evidence that the Knight is not a Lightner. The only other details that we find in the speech is the fact that she refers to the Knight with gender-neutral pronouns, and she mentions that the Knight has taken its leave. Unfortunately, we have no way of making gender-neutral pronouns mean anything, as she could just be using such terms because the Knight wears metal armor, conceals their identity and gender. Speaking of which, it is possible that the Knight wears the armor of a Knight, and while this isn't confirmed, Chris gained armor simply by so a character doesn't necessarily need to own any armor in the light world to gain Knight upon entering the dark world. That said, if a character does own armor in the light world, or owns something that the dark world might convert into armor, that would certainly increase chances of Knight.
ネイピア紹介で聞いてるですよね。私、皆さんのような熟練のギルドと一緒に行動すれば、私も成長できると思う。よろしくお願いするから。
Candidates. Specifically, we know that the Knight created the card game Dark Fountain, and the cyber. And while we don't know when Card Kingdom was created, we do. The cyber was created. Queen specifically
Dang
mentioned
it.
this
I'm still way too powerful.
today. There is a doubt that the Berkeley and Bell.
Although I guess it would be even more embarrassing if she
It seems
turns up having a higher power level than we are.
Shown into a dark wait, Susie. And since they're literally sitting at the table with the Dark Fountain being sealed, it suggests that he had sat down before the Dark World was created. Further, this closet specifically has text that says large groups of which seems to be hinting that the knight was hiding in after Noel and Berkeley sat down. This is further supported by the fact that Rouse should sense in the dark presence and hurry over. She implies that the Dark Fountain was created shortly after Chris and Susie left the castle town, as Rouse never mentions sensing such a presence before him. Considering Noel is still very close to the entrance of the cyber world when we find her, this further supports the notion that the fountain was minutes before Chris and Susie died. This suggests that the sequence of events went something like this. Knight enters the happens positive. Noel and Berkeley enter your lab in the mountain. At the same time, Chris and Susie enter the castle town and hang out for a minute. Then leave the castle town and start heading. Like, the knight creates the fountain and tells the queen that the storms for the night, and then quickly leaves the computer. Queen analyzes her situation and then acts her plan to collect lightners, being so to investigate. Chris and Susie then narrowly reach the knight,
デザートと行きましょうか。
enter the cyber world, still crossing the area to the left. Is captured by this seems to be the complete sequence of events.
さらに強くなったですね。
Establishing the
珍しい
shipping
のを見つけたですね。
characters just
了解です。
at the time to create the cyber fountain. So, with all that evidence on the table, let's discuss the potential candidates. Like I said before, I will include all of the named characters, even if they haven't actually appeared in the plot, which includes Darkeners like Say and Sir Spamton. Even though Darkeners probably can't wield determination, he can steal souls, which means that, pretty much like Flowey, Darkener could create Dark Fountains if they manage to steal the soul of the Night. Since Toby Fox has introduced this plot device, we have to assume it's possible, and thus I built Darkness analysis. Each character is analyzed in 3 phase: needs and opportunity. When discussing needs, I will go over whether the candidate matches the physical description of the knight and whether they have the ability to create dark fountains. When discussing motive, I will go over whether the candidate
You know what? I'm gonna sit this one out.
everything about the story.
Can you-
And if so,
Can you take my spot and be a fucking idiot
and
there?
discussing opportunity, I will go over whether they could have been placed time to create the dark world.
I'm a lot less kind to her this time because I don't feel like role-playing and being a nice guy anymore.
That represents how likely I think they are to be the knight. A tier means they are compelling and B tier means they are a flawed but feasible option. C tier means it's technically possible, but not. The replay of F tier is downright impossible for that character. With all that preliminary stuff out of the way, I will now discuss in alphabetical order every single option within reason regarding the true identity of the voting knight. First up is starting with needs. As far as the knight is concerned, the knight has long. Elvis is smaller than Chris. She also is known
ラストは
She gets known to wear frogs, so maybe she could put some sort of mecha suit that she could disguise herself with. She is certainly known for
我が糧となっていきや
and she also has 4 fingers, which could be enough to manage the light. Alphys is a light nurse, so it is feasible that she could create.
珍しいのを見つけたですね
She could pull it off. She's not exactly a strong person. She's also not knife. In terms of motive, Alphys doesn't seem to be just type, so her wanting to bring about the age
何かあるです
is unlikely. And while she has been known to cause problems for other
Things ended up working out well in the end, didn't it?
and she would try to
Wasn't I being a little hypocritical, considering we had Liana in the team at the time? She's not here right now, but she was in the main team on my original playthrough, and she was characterized as equally as dumb and clumsy. She was a war general, but she was really stupid. Like she became a war general because that's what was expected of her from her family lineage. But like she was wholly unprepared for it.
こんにちは
as such. If she gets the night, why did she children? Especially if that child. As for if she has a crush on, well, it's probably want to treat her kindly, and if not all change. Furthermore, students have a
珍
chance
しいのを見つけたですね
sympathize with right here. Walk down the hall, have a conversation with Noelle. She I office with study legs with library. But don't see it. She wanted to be hard. So Alex would have to get in there and hide the present without him noticing.
勝てそうです
Have time for all this off. Well, again, I would argue, but it's not possible. She does own a nice house, and she is gone from her.
Again, that depends. Although actually,
Now, she later
I just realized I don't really like the Protector class in this game in particular. Right now, I think the Protector class was the best in the third game with the Hoplite, where they were genuinely good no matter where you placed them, which I think is important if you're gonna make a defender in a game like this, where position matters.
Also, she did that she is to but not to answer. In fact, as when you discuss the fact that you went to a library where she's supposed to be about, she doesn't panic or be suspicious, and instead just rambles about anime. Now this week, Undertale was a terrible fight, and you could easily tell when she was concealing something. So it seems unlikely that the
I am just an idiot though, and I actually fell applying the second color stuff.
match the physical description of the knight does not seem to have any reason to be pursued boring, and it's debatable.
I was like 12 when I first discovered and played, quote unquote played. I watched Jacksepticeye play.
It's the knight.
Well, I originally watched Markiplier, but he never finished it. Jack did, and it wasn't until like many years later before Markiplier.
Next up is the Golden Dog. The Golden Dog has a shocking amount of evidence, which makes him the only S-tier option in Next up is
我が力よ敵を撃て
description of the knight. He has 5 fingers. He has white long arms, is known to wear the armor of the knight, and is known to wield his weapons both in combat and in fighting. It's highly probable that the dagger was weaponed Kara by Asgore, so it's entirely possible Asgore could use such a weapon as well. Notably, the closet in the computer lab specifically says that a large person could be inside, and then larger than Asgore. Also, I definitely say that Asgore has enough
珍しい
determination
のを見つけたですね。はいです。
well, as he had the strength to govern his people for millennia in the Undertale timeline. In terms of motive, Toriel definitely seems to be a religious type, so it's feasible that Asgore is as well.
What if we lie to her and encourage her?
He might have religious reasons to bring
Okay, she believes it.
heaven through glory. It wouldn't be the first time that Asgore has ended up as the protagonist, despite having
ありがとうです。
intentions. Even without the religious angle, Asgore's life is in such shambles that you have plenty of reasons to want to shake things up. I mean, he's divorced, he has no house or bed, he's on the verge of losing his business, he's a disgraced former police chief, and his best friend is slowly dying in hospital. Just to say, things aren't exactly going well for Asgore, which could work as a motivation for pursuing glory. In terms of opportunity, Asgore would have plenty of chances to enter the library, hide in the closet, and the computer lab, but he would have much fewer opportunities to sneak into the school. Although, since his ex
Nice.
works
Good job,
at the
yeah.
school, it's considered
Satsuga.
about when the best time is.
Iyasuku.
That said, the one issue with Asgore creating
Iyasuku.
is that he would likely have been spotted
Good. Her pronouns are she/her.
traffic at the time. And given how he's her former boss and a rather conspicuous character, I think she'd have something to say about it. And again, Asgore is notably absent for the majority of Chapter 2. He can't even enter his flower shop. As such, you could argue that his absence is due to him.
お前たち
And unlike Alphys,
お
Asgore
前
had
たちに聞きたいことは
Chris was one
自業
of the
自得だ
kids
と思う
who's
か
falling into these characters. Although, that does bring us to the first major issue, Asgore being night.
Honestly, I don't agree anymore. Especially considering what happened just a little while ago where my party almost got wiped out with the fucking power illusion.
And in a library, the children often frequent. Even if things are
Professionals going through the dungeons should expect death at any moment.
And he would never
But expecting it
your child.
and it happening are two different things.
Despite
Entirely.
up to them. And in Deltarune, he'd have the
Goblin Slayer, I'd say, you know?
This is the same man who dressed up as Santa Claus in Undertale and who was the police chief not too long ago. So from a purely character standpoint, I find it incredibly hard to believe that Asgore would risk the
When you
lives
choose
of
to go to the
man
dungeon,
in his hometown.
it means expecting death,
Match for the knight's
and
appearance.
that it may sometimes not be entirely your fault,
And he's given
no matter how strong you are.
dark felons. However, a featuring children
いらっしゃい。
slow out of character
なんすまんの。
night a hard swallow.
何を売るのじゃ。
Asgore, the primary antagonist for the second game in a row, which I don't know what to do. The impression I always got was that Asgore has to be at the worst possible in his life before he can get to anyone. So, as it stands, I would say Asgore is definitely a feasible candidate, not one that I personally think makes much sense. So, let's put him beat. Next up is the prince of the Dreamer household, Asriel. Asgore bleeds. Much like his father, Asriel has 5 fingers, arms, and is known to use it. Admittedly, Asriel is not known to wear armor, but he is known to have a good determination, so it's quite believable that he could create a dark fountain.
なん
In
じゃ。
terms of motive, Asriel is arguably religious and Tory. as Azrael regularly go confess for Chris's sins, despite that not being a concept of religion, and he was a member of the church choir. As it stands, with the exception of Father Alfred himself, Azrael has shown most devotion to the angel religion as a character in multiple, and thus he could have religious motivation to bring about the angel's heaven. That said, if we don't include the religious angle, there's not much incentive for Azrael to pursue such a goal. As far as we know, Azrael's life is pretty good, so it's hard to imagine he'd want to shake up the status quo, even if he created the Dark World in order to help his sibling in some way. It doesn't change the fact that Azrael is a pretty ethical person, and much like Asgore, I can't really imagine that he endangered children by creating these dark fountains. As for opportunity, this is where it gets especially sketchy. Azrael, supposedly, isn't even in town, so if he really is away at college, that would mean he literally quit it.
何にするのじゃ？
However, if that alibi is a lie and Azrael has
Nanjo?
snuck back to town, here it is. Let's take it to school and create.
毎度あり。
However, Cyberworld Dark
何か用
Fountain
か
is a much more dubious affair. Not only would Azrael have to sneak
Those
in
are the-
and out without being seen in the middle of the day, he would also then have to hide his identity throughout the rest of the town in order to avoid the feeling that he had come back from college. If there was some mysterious person hanging around town hiding their identity, would someone have commented on it? Overall, Azrael mostly matches the Knight's description, could potentially have a religious motive for boring, and he could theoretically sneak around town creating fountains without being seen, but he is not known to wear armor, is generally too ethical to endanger the lives of children, and he already has a fairly strong alibi due to him being supposedly away at college. Also, Azrael was the Knight, and that would make him the primary antagonist again, which, much like Asgore, I find to be a dubious prospect.
登録だな。
As such, I'd say Azrael is technically an option, but an unlikely. Thus
Dare
ends
を
up
呼ぶのだ。
in C tier. Next is everyone's favorite alpha gamer, Berkeley. As for needs, this one is rather tricky, as Berkeley doesn't really have fingers, so that part is already dubious. But as far as long arms are concerned, he is taller than Chris. In addition, he wears armor like a knight, he literally refers to himself as a knight, and he does technically use a weapon, although it's not a knife. He also seems confident in Dark Fountain at the end of Chapter 2, so that part seems to check out. In terms of motive, Berkeley very effectively presents his reasons for wanting to cover Berkeley's thought of creating a utopia for the smart people of the world. That part is fairly out. The only issue is that the Knight is an ongoing threat, whereas Berkeley has largely been neutralized as an antagonist by the end of Chapter 2. So if he really is the Knight, he probably have to possess a secret reason to for him, now that he actually knows what it is. But based off his characterization, it feels like his character arc is largely complete. Of course, this quickly improves on Toby Fox's part, but unless Berkeley has hidden depths that we haven't even begun to understand, it seems like him being defeated so early in the game wouldn't really make sense if he actually was the Knight. In terms of opportunity, Berkeley is a student at the school, so he could certainly have had the opportunity to create the Card Kingdom Dark Fountain. However, as far as the Cyberworld Dark Fountain is concerned, that part really doesn't add up. When the fountain is sealed, Berkeley appears in the middle of the room, not the closet. And if he had created the Dark Fountain, Ravel would have seen him. Similarly, the Queen clearly saw or heard, or possibly even met the Roaring Knight, and says that the Knight took its leave, which means that she, more so than anybody, should have been able to realize that Berkeley was the Knight, especially after how long she spends in his company. Furthermore, the Spade King clearly had the opportunity to interact with the Knight, as the Knight is the one that put him into power, and with all due respect to Burnley, I can't really imagine the Spade King worshipping at the shrine of a pro king. I don't think the Spade King would have even a single ounce of respect for some know-it-all Lightner rat. Overall, Burnley calls himself a knight, dresses like a knight, has an established motivation to
I
bring
need to
about
change my name before you fucking at me.
and he is seemingly fountains. However, he doesn't have fingers, doesn't use a knife, has already had a character arc, has already been is not recognized by the game, is in the wrong place to create the Cyberworld Dark Fountain, and is not the kind of person that the Spade King would respect. Oh, also, you can kill him in the Snow Graveyard, and I don't think the Lorraine Knight can be murdered in Chapter 2. As such, while not completely impossible, I find it extremely unlikely that Burnley could be a knight, and thus he ends up with T-Tier. Next up is Brad. I can't believe I included her and Caddy on this list, but here we go. In terms of memes, she was not a knight, nor has she ever worn armor, and she's never used a weapon of any kind, including a knife. That said, she does have long arms, she has at least 4 fingers, and since she's an alligator, it could be argued that her scales are a form of natural armor. It's debatable if she has any great amount of determination, but as a Lightner, she seems like a viable candidate for being able to create Dark Fountains. In terms of motive, I really have no idea. If someone like Bratty ended up being the knight, I feel like they'd have to be a puppet that was being tricked and manipulated, as otherwise I can't really see her having any reason or capability to bring about the warring. Also, if the Spade King respecting Burnley seemed like a dubious concept, him respecting Bratty seems even more absurd. I don't know why she would choose the school and the library as places to create Dark Fountains. Maybe she hates kids, or maybe she hates education. Given her Valley Girl persona, I wouldn't past her to be stupid and petty enough to do something like that, although that's hardly a strong argument for her being a knight. As for opportunity, Bratty doesn't seem to attend school, so I'm not sure if there's any obvious opportunity for her to create the Card Kingdom Fountain. She could feasibly create the Cyberworld Dark Fountain as it is inside a public library, although we never see her anywhere near that one, so even that option seems dubious. You'd expect her to create the Dark Fountain in her alleyway, or create it at places like the library or school. In short, Bratty is not particularly knight-like, she has no clear motivation for pursuing such an endeavor, and perhaps more importantly, she is a joke side character Toby Fox would almost certainly never make the antagonist of any game in a million years. It's not 100% possible, so I'll still put her in D tier, but please understand, she is light years less likely to be the knight than the other D-tier candidates. Next up is the most uncomfortably relatable character in fiction, Burger Pants, aka Pizza Pants. As for means, he only seems to have 3 fingers, he has nothing to do with knights, he is never seen with a weapon, and can't imagine that he has a great deal of determination. That said, he does have long arms, and it's possible that his Ice-E mascot suit could become a suit of armor in the Dark World and would help conceal his identity. In terms of motive, very few characters have a life as consistently terrible as Burger Pants, so I would not put it past him to want to bring about the warring in order to shake things up. Hilariously enough, one of his most iconic lines is that he can't go to hell because he's out of vacation days, which is a line Spamton references, and Jetlo directly connects the concept of hell with night. Actually, now that I think about it, Spamton and Burger Pants have a weird amount in common. Their faces are strangely similar in the shop, they both work in sales, they're both intensely expressive and cynical, They both talk about hell and vacation days. They both are prominently shown using phones, and they both want to be big shots. Dang, I don't know if that proves anything about Burger Pants being the Knight, but it definitely makes me wonder if Burger Pants has some greater purpose in this narrative.
誰を呼ぶのだ
Never find out his real name, right? That seems like a joke at first, but what if Toby Fox is using that joke to cover up the fact that Pants feels no greater story?
This is tinfoil hat conspiracy theory stuff now.
Another vicious and powerful character like Stanton could definitely use this evidence. Pants may also be ambitious enough to be the Knight. As for opportunity, this is where we reach issues with this theory. Burger Pants has a day job. He's not going to school, which means that he has very few opportunities to sneak off and create dark films. Of all the characters we've discussed thus far, Burger Pants has more ongoing responsibilities that keep him away from the rest of the town than anybody else, which definitely hurts the idea that he might be the Knight. If he was working at his day job, he couldn't have been creating the cyborg. Overall, Burger Pants definitely has the motive and the disposition to bring about the roaring, and I'm beginning to think there's more to him than meets the eye, but his minimal number of fingers, his lack of weapons and armor, and his lack of opportunity to create these dark fountains makes him a rather unlikely candidate for being the Knight. I'll go ahead and give C tier. Next is the first Darkener on our list, Cap'n. Cap'n
別のようか
is a member of the Sweet Cap'n Cakes to have 5 fingers. He is made of metal, so that could actually make him knight-like, and he seems to have decently long arms. However, he does not wield a knife, and doesn't really seem confident enough to steal a human soul, which makes it seem rather unlikely that he would be capable of creating a dark fountain. It's also unclear why he would bother creating a dark fountain in the empty classroom at the school.
誰を呼ぶ
Considering
のだ
Sham doesn't recognize him, and Captain doesn't seem to recognize Sham's card, it seems unlikely that Captain has ever been to the Card Kingdom. In terms of motive, Captain is a rebel, but he's only become a rebel recently. For the most part, he's just a musician, and seeing as he's part of the trio, it seems like he has a fairly sweet life, so it's hard to see why or how he go about becoming a knight. He also, at one point, literally says, "What does that knight have that I don't?" Which could be a cover-up line on his part, but I honestly have my doubts that Captain is smart enough to conceal such an elaborate ruse. As for opportunity, Captain certainly could have created the Cyberworld Dark Fountain, but him creating the Card Kingdom Dark Fountain seems dubious at best, especially considering he's part of the band. If he's part of the band, would his friends notice if he left to go create a dark world and overthrow the Card Kingdom monarchy? Seems like there's too many eyes on him for that to entirely make sense. Overall, while Captain matches 1 or 2 of the physical details of the Knight, and being a rather unassuming Darkener with no clear connections to the existing Lightners makes it feel rather unlikely that he's secretly the Roaring Knight. Plus, if he really was the Roaring Knight, why would he help Chris defeat the Queen in the final battle? The Queen was trying to create more Dark Fountains, so helping the Delta Warriors seems irrational if he really was the Knight. Also, he's
I'm considering teams Kino, Sir, Liana, and Alma should be inseparable.
Time to discuss all the characters. That's none of them make sense. Next up is the older sister of Penny. Penny's hands are received details. She's transferred to law, so Penny, which is enough to reach the Knight. Arms are hardly long. She certainly seems determined after all the stiff treatment shelf. That said, she has technically she has claws, not hands. In terms of motive, Penny is a practitioner of most dislikes how she is asked to move, as she sense that she wishes to go. So I'm concerned, she definitely seems to have a disposition. Even if you have disposition, don't have out discovery, so Caddy is the edge. That said, especially since she's probably going to press much like she is a student. However, Patty has a job.
B3 Umag.
So it's possible that she has to alibi is successful 8%. Now,
And Chelsea go really well together. Celerex has potential synergy. Could replace Umag, but
Next up is Caddy's sister, Annie. Annie has all the same problems as Randy. She has paws and hands. She might have some parts and that's the that's the Jersey like Patty. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. As Patty is arguing, her happy is her long life. Rather, thus it seems unlikely that she would want to out in darkness. That's assuming she has the ability which is highly. She's not exactly the sharpest. Patty actually has a tendency to store. But the entire concept does appear one time to tell that IT responsible is the fact that she has no reaction implies that she has been acting. But that's literally a suspicious detail about character that hardly happens. Caddy is just like Fred and Brad, as she is not very night-like, children of boring out, and she is the joke character, joke box, favorite protagonist in a honestly, I think the best sense, Caddy. So I put her at the very bottom. Next is the child. Yeah. Heart. So this assuming is the Carla in time. Which might not be the case. Carla is and friends. Carla discuss and undead abomination version of Carla and these two versions are different enough to prevent separate discussions, much like Astro. Wow. So first, discuss how likely it is the version of Carla turning the original version of Carla at time of just several levels of line night Carla and fun. Night certain perspective. Yes, they would like to Potentially suicide as a result of hatred and after falling decided to devote himself to save monsters. Early poisoned themselves Azrael is the opportunity to kill some humans in pain. Good luck. I have intentions of the sword, admittedly and determination, but what this tells us is that Kara is a dangerous and intense person. Radical and deadly strategies out their designed goals. As such, Kara, pouring ancient heaven, something pursuing in night. Obviously, they don't have to have a story built around, but assuming their personalities and things, they've clearly got the aptitude to bring about the glory. Honestly, having Kara main antagonist would definitely be an interesting turn of events. In terms of opportunity, this is where this option gets extremely dubious. Chris is, as far as we know, the only human in the hometown. As such, if a new human, presumably an adult human, came to town, that would be extremely notable, and tons of people would be talking. As such, in order for this to work, Kara would have to conceal their presence in the hometown. While that's not possible, it has much less evidence supporting it than most of the other options. Furthermore, if this game takes place around Kara and his Undertale, then Kara could be long dead, which would make this option much harder to swing. That said, we don't know for certain this red soul is during the intro scenes. As such, if this is actually Kara's soul, and Gaster did something, like put it in a vessel, then it could be that Kara is has become the knight. Again, this is assuming that Chris isn't the Delta Red version of Kara, which we don't actually know to be the case. As far as human Kara is concerned, they are definitely a strong contender, as they have determination in spades, 5 fingers. They should have longer arms, they're known to wield a knife, and if they're similar to Chris, then they likely acquired a suit of armor upon entering the
登録だな。
They also have the attitude and disposition to want to bring about the war. And while it's a somewhat hard sell to believe they're sneaking around undetected in town, the fact that they really the character featured in this intro sequence with Gaster definitely lends itself to Kara being the stability of the story. As such, I would say human Kara is the first A-tier option on this list. And for some polls,
I thought that was the dog.
Character for this to be a highly compelling option. Next, we have to talk
Purely
about
damaged
the
team.
of Kara. I would just call to be clear, the demon is not Kara. The same way that Flowey is not as the demon is a soulless abomination. While Kara was a human with at least some good. In terms of needs, the demon has many of the same
You can just do everything.
They have 5 fingers, they have the determination of the soul purchased from the player,
どうするのだ。
there's a good chance that they will be outfitted with armor upon entering the jungle world. Only attribute lacks is the long arm. However, as an unnatural abomination, it's quite possible that this creature could extend its arms or possess someone who actually has long arms, so there's definitely found short. In terms of motive, this is where things get complicated. According to the demon itself, this is purely to acquire power, as is its purpose. This is to destroy his enemies, this instance, that is all compared to him. It cannot understand why the player insists on recreating the world, but it bring about the end of the world, the issue is the choice to become the Roaring Knight. Why would an entity free of any desire except the urge to destroy bother with such an elaborate? Maybe it wants to lure out an angel in order to kill a truly powerful foe, but still, that demonstrates a level of complexity that the demon, by its own admittance, does not seem to possess. Maybe it could grow and evolve over time, much like Flowey. That's making some very broad assumptions that are not backed up on evidence. Furthermore, as an entity from another world, the demon would have to be summoned to this Deltarune reality in order to appear. So, could he possibly have summoned it? Could it be faster? So, why would he bother summoning an entity of pure destruction? Even he doesn't seem that insane. While I could imagine the demon making a cameo to pursue some sort of genocide route in Deltarune, I can't really see them bothering with all this Roaring Knight stuff. It just doesn't seem to character for an entity as simple and straightforward as the demon. In terms of opportunity, the demon wields enough power to deconstruct the entire reality. So if it really has been summoned to this world, and it is the Roaring Knight, and it wields more than enough power to teleport from place to place. Although, honestly, if the demon was the Roaring Knight, I would think it wouldn't take so long to bring about Roaring. When an entity like that dozens of dark goblins per day, I think this for some legend such an insert extent as the demon wastes time and could killing people and acquiring more power. And of course, the demon only appears in the name. It's literally impossible for it to be Roaring Knight in this, which they might not. As such, one has the power to bring about specific circumstances necessary to be brought here, and then to be convinced that this plan is worth its time makes this option extremely convoluted and dubious. Overall, the demon has the right attributes and powers, and it's certainly unethical enough to bring about the end of the world. This intricate plan to bring about Roaring seems far too complex for the demon to operate. The time it takes for the Roaring to come out, even could have destroyed this world several times over. As such, I know that all of this game is a fairly fine theory, and people are kind of forgetting how violent, stick, and direct this entity is. It's not like Flowey, and it's not like Marvel. It has a one-track mind focused on a very simple goal. Kill everything and keep power. So, while definitely one of the more interesting candidates to discuss, I found the likelihood of the demon right rather than, and thus I put it C2. Next up is Children. As far as needs, Children is one short, has no arms or fingers, is thus incapable of life. They do seem strong-willed enough to potentially create dark goblins, and while they don't exactly qualify as like, so maybe Children, in terms of loading, Children's entire personality revolves around and if this is still true, then it seems like Children risk School's life by being out school or something else. In terms of opportunity, Children hasn't even appeared Deltarune, so either they don't exist, or they have very actively avoided encountering risk during the day. As such, whether they have the opportunity to bring about weapons is unclear. So, if the knight really is one of the lightners in the hometown, I find it unlikely that Toby Fox would conceal that lightner for several chapters. Although, again, that's just speculation on that. Overall, Children fails to match the knight's appearance and may not even exist in reality. As such, while they do have the right mindset to bring up the story, their insignificance in the plot and their lack of arms, hands, or knives, Nathan's option is pretty much impossible. As such, Shipwreck is the first F tier in this time. Next is Clover. As far as means, Clover has rather long arms, but that's the only detail that seems to match the knight. You have paws rather than hands, you have 3 fingers on those paws, they don't wield a knife or armor, and as a darker, they have stolen a light soul or their determination with a dark fountain.
登録だな。
Likely for someone as flighty as Clover to have come off. In terms of other things, Clover only has multiple personalities, so it's entirely possible that one of them has the correct mindset to want to bring forward. They do attempt to stop adult warriors, so they are at least helping things plan to cover the world of darkness, which makes them more feasible in terms of personality than capabilities. In terms of opportunity, this is where things get even if given trapped in this classroom for ages, things are stolen a life soul. Essence will be in the cycle of Castletown, rock and often town, which means it's borderline impossible that it suits the life. Overall, Clover is another extremely unlikely option. They don't match the institution almost at all. It seems more than possible for them to have created the cyber world of the fountain. As such, even though they might have the right motivation, I would say Clover might is less legal or capitalist. Thus they end up in FT. Next up is Crystal, aka Smoke's mother. In terms of needs, much like children, Crystal doesn't have fingers, arms, or no connection to knives, armor, or knights, and it's unknown if she possessed any quantity of information. In terms of motive, Crystal is not well fleshed out, but she seems to have been a proud mother who cared for her family, and she may have also been a comedian. However, it's rather hard to tell if she was possessed any reason, as she's a barely comprehensible amalgamate in Undertale, and she's dead in Piltover. Since her son goes to school, I find it unlikely that she would risk his life and found there. In terms of opportunity, Crystal is literally dead. That's a fairly strong alibi, implying that she is not a knight. Possible that her soul was stolen by the market. But as far as Crystal herself goes, it seems extremely unlikely that she could have faked her own death and began creating her own. Overall, Crystal makes even less sense to be more knight than children, and I'm somewhat wondering if it was even worth bringing her up in the first place. She doesn't match the knight's appearance, doesn't have any clear motive to bring her story, and she has a fairly strong alibi for her being dead. As such, I'll be putting Crystal right at the bottom F tier. Next is the father of Patty, Dad Cat. In terms of needs, presumably it's paws instead of hands, and it's never seen weapons or armor or sword. Instead, he's an adult, so his arm is but the fact that he has lots of weapons arms imply that Dad Cat was a soldier at some point, which means he could have some experience with weapons, and he might have an average determination. Also, a large man, so much like in this work, is line mentioning a large person could together. Right. He also probably has 4 fingers, which is the minimum necessary to manage the knight. In terms of motive, I don't know much about Dad Cat. Considering having a stomach pumped for oranges, skin of pickles, and the fact that he doesn't know Asriel's true name, it seems like he might be about as stupid as it's
誰を呼ぶのだ
which makes it somewhat.
誰を呼ぶのだ
He also seems like a fairly happy man, so it seems like that he'd want to shake up the status quo. Plus, his daughter goes to school, so you'd think Dad Cat wouldn't want to put his daughter at risk by making her pregnant. And in terms of opportunity, his daughter goes to school, so it's conceivable that he could have snuck in and And it is theoretically possible that he could have moved to the library, although we
ではな
have supporting them. Overall, that cat might have a secret
じっくり見ていくがよいぞ。装備を変えるのかや？
patience for bringing them up. As the thing had an opportunity to start teams against his character are risk. That said, it does have a mystery around him to make slightly more sense than Harry, so I'll put him in the seat. Side note, I won't ranking Tomcat, as there's been less discussion there than honestly I only him because he's missing an arm and that arm. Next up is Des Hahn. In terms of themes, we don't know how long Des' arms are, and we don't actually know how they him best, but they definitely seem to have fingers and arms. Des doesn't seem to have any connection to knights or armor.
なんじゃ？
She did attack threats with a weapon.
今後ともよろしく頼むぞ。
She's also polite. Yeah, she sounds like she's strong.
なんだっけ？
So it seems feasible that she may in terms of movement, where things get extremely speculative. Don't know much about Des' personality under being protective of well, so that's all we know. Said, but Noelle made a dog really good so they guess what's on the list.
はあ、なんだよ。
She wants to bring about just have a long or persistent, and that's why she did that. There's a lot of the location seems to be that Des is
いってらっしゃい。
either increases her chances of being night or decreases it, depending on which interpretation is correct. She's dead. Rather difficult for night. However, she has no face, so it stands to reason that she's probably just missing. Maybe she ran away from home or disappeared under suspicious circumstances. As Henry and one life definitely the one to make more. Alternatively, if she was abducted, something similar, that is likely a bigger mystery to be uncovered from Des, which could be evidence that she has become the knight against her will. If she is the knight, she will conceal her identity, library, or so that part is somewhat curious. The Des being the knight could explain why the theme was so
Ah, they're weak to fire and slashing specifically.
Overall, Des is such a mysterious character that it's hard to discuss her role in this game. That said, she seems to match a couple of the attributes. There's a major mystery surrounding her that could tie into her being a knight, and she may have just the right combination of trauma, personality traits, and communication to bring them home. She definitely seems to play some major role in the story, but like that role being back up the main.
It says melee attack with equipped weapon. So does that mean it uses the same properties as the weapon with this skill? If so, that seems useful. So that means that the attack can take advantage of Mara's things. Which is very important.
by some unknown attacker, so I doubt the average shrimp will fail to bring about the apocalypse. They can't handle us in terms of opportunity. This is where this option is hard. A gang of shrimp will sneak into a school is already extremely weak.
とどめよそらよやっ へへ楽勝は
They've been in jail for months, and I think it's safe to say that none of these characters could be. I put the dogs in detail. I was going to talk about Infinity next.
あら
Personally, the character doesn't even exist in Delaware. And it's the grave of Butler, and the leader of the dogs who was likely monsters who made up with Dogany. However, Butler would have all the issues that the dogs have on top of the fact that he is dead. As such, I'll just save us some time and it's impossible to say. Right? Except the fictional characters in terms of what things that are possible to discuss. The only description we have of everything from the detailed argument that Tony Fox describes it as five shows up.
消えてほれ無駄だよ
What night really fall? That second, right smile, sure. So it's absolutely maybe the subscription was wrong, right? But honestly, it's categories. You really have everything.
終わり余裕の勝利ね
And its ability to expected places, it's not possible to show up in school. That said, he's the famous American captain. Eating, possession, tell, saw, everything. Overall, Everyman is one of the most pervasive issues in this franchise. It couldn't just be a inside joke. Complex to see, or importance to the plot, really don't. That said, I have extreme doubts that Tony Fox would make this random, bizarre entity. As an attack by
何かあるわ
or fact of the action man's description of purpose, or everyone.
It's Durian. Never mind.
Popular and
It's still a Durian, it's just... It's the deadly Durian.
It has a substance in it, or features, Undertale should vary with as such, other album matches the main description.
無駄だよ終わり
Plus, they have substantial religious tradition. In fact, studies and responsible
次最後へへ楽勝はい
has written a book series called Lord and as such, arguably Alvin is the son or is eligible to be out. In terms of opportunity, this option actually has quite a bit of interesting evidence. In the Empty Classroom, where the card Kingdom Dark Knuckle was created, there is a drawing written on the wall which has been confirmed on Alvin created. As such, this shows not only that Father Alvin attended the school, but also that he specifically knows about this particular classroom. As such, it shows him to create a Dark Mountain, this classroom specifically, because he knows it and likely doesn't want to hurt the kids. The classroom is independent, have no reason to worry about the future. So in the second world, this option is we never see Alvin anywhere. As he is a pre-staff. Studies, although like children inside the lab are pushed. He doesn't care as much about the safety of children as he expect, or maybe he thinks they're a necessary sacrifice for bringing about the or maybe it's the angel,
ほら貴様の自由はもらうぞ次最後弱かった
fountains and the right background to conceivably discover the existence of said fountains. In his history, father did consider the idea of having access to armor and weapons. The Dark World has the Delta Room all over it, and Alvin literally wears the Delta Room on his robes. So the idea that he involved in this
おお、あの人なんじゃ
also matches
おお、本当か
Yes, that said, there are more than against Alvin.
うまい
One, Father Alvin does not have a seeing station. Something most other characters have. Even Shackleton has a
今後ともよろしく頼むぞじっくり見ていくがよいぞおお、あの人たちか
that represents their
うまい
included characters.
なんじゃ今後ともよろしく頼むぞ
Same to their audio clip that all
じっくり見ていくがよいぞ
Of course, this could be totally not just a sidewalk depending on Alvin. And of course, if those minor issues, sleep happens
何を売るどうするの何にするのじゃ
as such.
何にするのじゃ毎度あり
This night, I'm happy with him and
いらっしゃい
Next up is the final boss of most of
これにするんだねいやー君たちそれでねそれでねしっかりねどうするのかなしっかりね いらっしゃいどうするのかなおや何を報告するんだいそれじゃ聞かせてくれるんそれでねいやーありがとう
よし悪くない
どうするのかな
As he is pushing back maybe power he needs to accomplish some other goal. And definitely Hey, Flower, primary antagonist in Undertale. Why not have a primary antagonist in Delta too? Next is
よくやったわ。
Flower shouldn't this in the Delta reality.
Right.
Travel from Undertale timeline to the Delta. And smartly, that's not possible. Sure, Sans one at one point in the world required a machine that was broken. So without that machine, I can't see how pop one reality.
しっかりね。
Did manage to get closer than his school, library, child's library, disability,
お客さん、はいはい。
without the ability to somehow
朝までお休みだね。
this option seems awesome. Overall, Maui has the but it
I'm going to bed now.
night, but he lacks most of the attribute in the night, and it's more than possible for Flower to reach the Delta.